Hey, friends, and welcome back to the Parenting Lab. I'm going to start today with a question. Is it too late to change? This has come up a lot in my conversations lately, so I want to take just a few minutes and dig into what this question actually means for us as parents. Because many of us, maybe even all of us, have had moments when we feel like we've really failed our kids, maybe even past the point of repair. Now, maybe for you, that question comes up when you look back at the way you've parented in the past. Maybe it's about the times that you yelled, or the times you brushed off your child's needs or emotions, or the ways you put survival ahead of connection. Often it comes up when you see your teenager rolling their eyes, shutting their bedroom door, and maybe you think, oh, did I miss my chance? Did I already mess this up? Or maybe it comes when you're thinking about your adult children. Maybe the relationship feels distant or fragile or stuck in old patterns, and you wonder, is it too late for us to have something meaningful? So that's what we're talking about today, because while the question is about time, is it too late? What it's really asking is something deeper. Am I capable of change? And even if I am, does it even matter? Will it still make a difference? Okay, so let's break it down. Here's the first thing I want you to hear. It is never, ever too late to change yourself. Now, I know that sounds simple, maybe even cliche, but stick with me here, because I don't just mean little tweaks. I mean transformation. It's never too late to transform the way you think, the way you feel, the way you react, the way you show up in the world. One of the most beautiful things about being human is that we are wired for growth. Our brains are not fixed, and our emotional patterns are not set in stone. The sciencey word for this is neuroplasticity. Neuro meaning the nerve cells in our brains, the neurons, and plasticity meaning the ability to be shaped or molded. Neuroplasticity tells us that our brains are constantly rewiring. Our nervous systems are constantly learning. We are not who we were 10 years ago, 5 years ago, or even yesterday. But here's the thing. Growth and change aren't quite the same as transformation. Growth is about expanding your awareness, gaining insight, about maturing, right? And transformation is about taking that growth and then applying it. It's about deciding, hey, just because I've always done something this way doesn't mean I have to keep doing it that way forever. So now we get vulnerable, because transformation always involves a little bit of grief. Because every time we choose to shift, we're letting go of patterns that have worked hard to protect us. These patterns are often deeply conditioned beliefs that we have held for our whole lives, and it feels almost like a betrayal to let them go. Maybe we're letting go of our parents' ideals and methods or theological constructs. Maybe we're letting go of shame, bad habits, or patterns of abuse. We rely on these patterns to keep us safe. Now, safety in this sense doesn't always mean comfort and warmth. Sometimes it just means predictability. We do what we know, even if it hurts, because a sure outcome is better than the risk of trying something new. But when we let go of these patterns that no longer serve us and our children, it is hard. Leaning into growth and transformation can be so challenging, but with the right support and vision for the future, I promise it's possible. No matter how old you are, no matter how long you've been doing things a certain way, okay? But I know that's not really the whole question here, because what most parents are really asking when they're wondering if it's too late is, but what about my kids? What about that relationship? Haven't I already done the damage? And now it gets tender. Okay, so we've been vulnerable, we're getting tender, because yes, our past choices and patterns do shape our relationships, and they leave lasting imprints. Sometimes they even leave wounds. But here's the good news. Healing is always possible. Repair is always possible. Every single relationship at every single stage can benefit from being more mindful and more honest and more connected. Now, does that mean it's always easy? No. Does it mean your child will automatically welcome your changes with open arms? Also no. Especially if they're older, they might be skeptical. They might test you. They might even resist. But skepticism isn't the same as rejection. It's self-protection. They're watching to see if your change is real. And that means that the most powerful thing that you can do is not to convince them with words, but to show them with consistent action. Now, full transparency, I didn't start parenting this way until my kids were well into their teens. I had reached a point where I felt like my kids were slipping through my fingers. I was constantly triggered, not necessarily by their actions, but in my case, by their words. Words are especially important to me, and I felt like I was being rejected, disrespected, overlooked, you name it. I was in a perpetual state of hurt, and I honestly thought I will never be able to have a good relationship with my kids. I'm too broken, and I'm too hurt, and I'm too unlovable to parent them well. I'll keep them alive, but they're going to leave and they're never going to look back, and I deserve it. The pattern I had gotten into was one of, I'm just going to get hurt, so I'll stop trying and give up. The outcome is inevitable, so I'll just surrender to it. It was a really rough time for me, but that's when I discovered this work of healing and the growth started happening. I was learning and processing and connecting dots and recognizing things about my own past, my nervous system, my held experiences, and I started putting that healing into action as I interacted with my kids. And let me tell you, it was awkward. It was rough. There were eye rolls, and 1,000 times I thought, maybe this isn't working. It really is too late. But little by little, I began to notice shifts. They started to notice the difference in me. Their skepticism turned into openness. Our conversations got deeper. Our conflicts softened. They saw that I wasn't just saying that I was different, but I was actually showing up differently. It took time. It's still taking time. It took consistency. It's still taking consistency. They need to gather evidence that I was not just following a script or trying some new fad that I found on Instagram, but that I was becoming something new and that they could trust it. Now, I want to add a little side note here and gently point out that I have only shared with you my perspective and feelings and how my behavior affected my relationship with my kids. Okay, do you see a pattern there? And that's on purpose because I can't change them. I can't be in their heads and know their intentions towards me or their motives in their behaviors or their process of healing. I can only recognize, heal, and transform my thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. So it's really important that you understand that if you're wondering if it's too late to change things with your kids, you cannot place the responsibility of fixing things on them. It's on you, okay? Okay, but how? You may be wondering, how do I do that? Well, along the way in my own parenting journey, I learned a few lessons that I think are really important, especially if you're coming to this work later in your parenting journey or trying to repair and recover from past mistakes and missteps. These lessons apply in one way or another to kids in every stage of development, so I invite you to take with you what feels aligned with where you're at right now. Okay, so my first lesson. I had to be honest about my mistakes and my flaws. My teens were old enough to see right through me. They knew when I was faking it, so I stopped trying to appear perfect, and instead, I just decided to tell them the truth. I don't have this all figured out. I mess up. I'm learning. And surprisingly, that honesty didn't actually weaken our relationship, it strengthened it. It gave us common ground and kind of balanced out that power dynamic in our family. Okay, my second lesson. I had to tell them my triggers. When I kept my inner world hidden, right, because a lot of times we feel like we can't share this part of us because we need to stay the parent and they need to stay the kid, and we feel like there's a divide that needs to be there. But when we keep our inner world hidden, our kids have no idea why we're reacting the way that we do. And that's exactly what happened with my kids. So I started saying to them out loud, when you don't text me back, I worry that something's wrong. That's why I get anxious. Or for me, a big one was I have some really deep hurt around being made fun of. So when you make jokes at my expense, I feel really embarrassed. It wasn't about controlling them or manipulating them into behaving a certain way. It was about helping them understand me. And it was that transparency that created this new level of trust. When they heard my sad story from high school, they went from thinking that I had no sense of humor to understanding why it hurts me to be laughed at. And then they started trying to be more mindful with their jokes. So telling those stories also, for me, released a lot of the shame and sadness around it that I'd been carrying, which is the really beautiful thing about telling our stories truthfully. My third lesson, I had to talk them through it. Because I was showing up differently than before, I had to narrate it. So here's a few things that I would say often. I'm trying to pause before I yell. I'm choosing to listen instead of jumping to conclusions. I'm going to explain this differently so that we can both get on the same page. and I'm going to take a break before we continue this conversation. I felt like a sportscaster of my own inner life, giving them a play-by-play of everything that I was thinking and feeling, but it made such a huge difference. It gave them a window into what I was trying to do, and it kept me grounded in the present moment without drifting into old patterns, and it also modeled skills they could actually use themselves. So let's talk about this idea across the stages of parenting, because is it too late really sounds and feels different depending on whether your kids are little, if they're teenagers, or if they're already adults. Okay, so with young kids, if your kids are still little, the good news is they are so resilient. They adapt quickly. Even if you've been parenting in ways that you now regret or wish that you hadn't done, you can pivot and they'll absorb it. Little kids thrive on repair. They forgive so easily and they model what they see. With teenagers, though, they've got sharp radars for inauthenticity and things that are fake. If you suddenly switch gears, they may side-eye you. They'll wait and see if it lasts. And this is where consistency and honesty and that narration that I talked about matter the most. They don't want perfection. They want proof. Proof that you're serious, that you're willing to admit when you mess up, and that you'll keep showing up no matter how they respond. And then there are adult children. This is where a lot of parents feel the most hopeless, like the window has closed. But here's what I want you to know. It's not too late for you either. The relationship can shift, but it looks different. You can't parent them anymore, but you can relate to them differently. You can own the past. You can apologize without excuses. You can say, I didn't know then what I know now, and I wish that I had, but I want to build something new with you. And sometimes that's the moment when healing begins. Okay. So now, how do you actually integrate this into your daily life? All right, let's make it practical with 5 things you can start doing today. First, apologize openly and often. Your kids don't need your perfection. They need repair. Okay. Second, narrate your growth. Say it out loud. I'm trying to handle this differently than I used to. Be patient with me. I'm working on it. Whatever you need to say to help them understand that you're trying. Third, name your triggers. Let them into your inner world instead of leaving them guessing. All right, this requires a little bit of honesty, a lot of vulnerability, a lot of just accepting that things in your past still hurt maybe, and it's okay to share those things. Fourth, practice consistency. 1 good moment doesn't rebuild a relationship. 10 good conversations probably aren't enough. But 100 consistent moments over time, that's where trust starts to come back. And last, number 5, stay humble. The goal isn't to get it right, but to just keep showing up, willing to learn over and over and over again. I want to leave you with this. When we ask, is it too late to change? What we're really asking is, do I still matter? Do I still have influence? Can I still make a difference in my child's life? And you guys, the answer is yes. Every single time, yes. No matter how old your kids are, no matter what your past has looked like, there's always space for healing because every human heart longs for connection. Every single one of us wants to be seen and understood and safe with the people that we love the most. And your willingness to grow and to change, to transform, to begin again, that's what makes that possible. So no, it's not too late. Not for you, and not for them, and not for your relationship. You can start today, and you can start again tomorrow, and every single day make a conscious choice to show up differently. If you want to dig deeper into what we've talked about today, I invite you to take part in the Parenting Lab series. These courses are designed to guide you in the process of healing by looking to your past to identify these patterns, into your core values, and leading with intention, and lots of great science and research to get to the heart of why you do what you do. You can find all of those courses on my website at theparentinglab.org. Thank you so much for being here with me today. This was a big conversation, and I feel like we only scratched the surface. We'll probably touch on this again, but I do hope it gave you some encouragement and maybe even a little bit of hope. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode of the Parenting Lab, and I will see you next week as we continue to explore the art and science of parenting and put your parenting to the test. Take care.